Hello, Targar friends. Hey, everybody. It's Jason Blaha here, and once again, it's time for another Orc Mode workout. And just a quick reminder for those of you who watch these videos every day, please remember to click like down below. It would be greatly appreciated. Very happy with today's workout. And I always get people who ask, what's the Loktar Ogar? Okay, it's Loktar Ogar. It's from World of Warcraft. It's an Orc greeting. Hence Orc Mode training. For those who don't get it, go look it up. So, today we upped the volume on the speed work. Up the volume. I did 10 sets of speed squats and 10 sets of speed pulls, but technically I did 11 because apparently I can't count. So it is what it is. Speed squats went a little heavier today. We went up another 20 pounds. Those bands, it's one problem with this bar. The bands with the ideal setting for my other bars, they get a hair loose right at the bottom. But it hits the tension pretty quick, and we're hitting peak tension at the top. Overall, happy with the speed, although again, it's 20 more pounds, so it might not be quite as explosive as it was a hair lighter. But again, good weight for me to work with, very good weight. So for those curious for the speed, it's 241 on the bar and 110 pounds of band tension is what we are running off of an 11-inch box. And the 11-inch box, as you guys will notice, is very well below parallel. It's probably 2 to 3 inches below parallel for me, and I'm doing that for a reason. I'm doing it to build power out of the bottom, to continue to learn to squat deep and to sit back and to get deep. All right, because on the box squat, you do not have any forward slide of the knee. There's none. Not even talking about knees over toe. No, your knee doesn't even get to your midfoot. In theory, on some of these, I should be getting to where my knee is actually moving backwards. Not even just staying completely above the ankle, right? Especially as we get near the bottom. When I'm at the bottom there, that knee is actually back. And that's what we want. This builds posterior chain, right? It gives us glute power. It builds glutes. It builds hips. To get back like that and to have to control it and then to explode from that dead stop. It's about the compensatory acceleration. It's about the rate of force production. And that's why we do the speed work. And it does. It works very, very well. And there's going to be hypertrophy from this. That's why I only did a couple extra exercises. Like my quads will get a growth stimulus from today's workout. They will get a growth stimulus. A pretty strong one. Right? So will glutes and everything else. But I wanted the posterior chain and all of that to make sure that they got worked harder. So, you know, you'll see what I get to is my normal stuff at the end. Not quite as much supplemental work as I do on the max effort days right now. Because I don't need it. Right? We don't need it. We're getting a very, very large growth response here. So, again, this is technically a true hypertrophy day because of the supplemental work added in. But, again, keeping in mind, we are hitting upper threshold fibers on every rep. Now, we're not necessarily generating the same fatigue, but what you have to think about is as these reps accumulate, we are accruing a lot of fatigue. Right? Even though it's very submaximal weight, we are exploding on every rep. We are trying to explode violently and aggressively. And I'm not quite as fast on these as I was at one time, and I suspect it's because I'm running the really deep box. It's probably a little harder to generate the full speed that I want because I'm having to move it further. So it may not look as fast total as when I used to do these off of like a 13-inch box, which is 2 inches higher. But I'm focusing on these on pausing and then driving as hard as I can. All right, we are trying to drive through. And I mean, I would love to be able to use the other bars for this, but I tried to mess around just with the straight bar to see if I could grab it real wide, because people always keep saying, well, you know, you'd get it easier if you just grab it wide. Well, I can't. So I wanted to just see, and then I'm like, no, let's just do the safety bar. Wide grip on a straight bar for me still hurts my shoulder, and it hurts a lot. And my shoulder doesn't hurt on anything else I'm doing. It doesn't hurt on pull-ups. It doesn't hurt on snatch grip high pulls, right? All that stuff is pain-free. Only thing that bothers it is overhead pressing and straight bars for squatting. And I'm going to have to eventually work through that, but I've got to keep working the shoulder health. I mean, and I wish that I could do it for speed work, but I start thinking about the number of sets, it's going to hurt real bad. So I may mess with it more and more for the max work. And I might throw aside my idea of, well, let's max on the different bars. No, we don't necessarily need to. I could just work off the straight bar so that I get practice in on my max effort days and just rotate bands and chains, right? to get different maxes. And I probably need to just stick with the straight bar for that so that I get used to getting in that position. But I don't have to do it for a lot of sets. You know, we ramp up to a max, you're just doing a few singles. Okay, not too bad. And that's all I'll have to do in a meet also. All right, what do we have to do in a meet? I have to do 3 reps. I just need to get my shoulder used to ramping up to a max with a straight bar and continue to work on the shoulder health and the dead hangs, you know, and try to work on the mobility more and more over time. But, you know, I feel like on most movements, my shoulder is great now, right? In spite of that impingement from last year, it's great. Just got a few things holding it back, but we'll continue to work on it. We'll make progress on it. I'm hopeful. Like, I'm not just hopeful, I'm positive. I will make it work. We'll make it work. Speed pulls. I went with today instead of sumo because I want to rotate through some of this stuff. I went with 1-inch block pulls. Now, some people would say, why? Well, I covered for you guys the other day about deficit versus block work. Block work makes you faster off the floor. A lot of coaches agree with that, by the way. A lot of very, very elite coaches agree with that. Deficits don't actually make you faster off the floor. Low blocks do. So I'm doing, just for the speed work today, low blocks against pretty heavy bands, 150 pounds of band tension. It's 285 on the bar. I was going to do 10 doubles and just alternate my grip each time. You know, so again, switching from the mixed grip back and forth for each set so that we try to keep things balanced there. And again, trying to get used to this bar. And one of the things I'm finding is that, yeah, definitely where I put my fingers around this bar matters a lot because I'm using the Texas Power Bar. But I'm going to keep pulling with it. It's hard as hell on my hands, especially with the speed work on bands. But you know what? If I can get through the speed work on with bands on this every week, my hands should be pretty tough and used to this bar. And I'm having to learn the best way to grip it to where it doesn't feel like it's just shredding my hands to pieces. One of my clients had bought one of these recently, and he tore his hands up on speed day. And he's like, yep, it was pretty bad, and I haven't torn them yet doing it. So, you know, all good. But we did blocks on this, and I'll rotate it with deficit too, because I want to work both ends of it. But I mean, I may just change it to work with whatever I see coming out on the deadlifts. I'll start maxing on some deadlifts coming up, you know, in the near future. And we can base the speed work on the weak points, right? And I notice, again, I'm just so much faster and more comfortable than with the sumo. And part of me is tempted to say, oh, I don't really need sumo speed pulls that much. Part of me is tempted to say that and just work off conventional variations. But I know that there are benefits to doing both, right? And particularly if we start getting certain types of fatigue. But I think with the conventional ones, I'll base it on, in the future, how the maxes look. You know, or do we have lockout problems, or are we slower off the floor? And that's where we'll pick, you know, how much block or deficit or whatever we run for these. You know, pick which ones that we do to address the weak points. Because there's a lot of weak point training involved in this. So when we're doing speed work, you know, it's a lot of volume with high rates of force production. So we do need to be looking at what's going on with the strength curve and think about that when we're selecting which variations we want to do. I mean, we rotate them anyways, but it is something to factor in. Right, something to think about. But happy with these today. And like I said, I ended up doing 11. Somehow I miscounted, but I definitely counted the files. I got 11 files. So, you know, I did more than I intended to. So it's like, well, okay, my box jumps, I'll just do one less set. I was thinking of doing 10 sets. So I just got to 9. What I thought was 9. And it turned out I was right. Apparently I could count on those. I guess the speed pulls took enough out of me, made me lightheaded enough that, you know, with the little short breaks, these are about 30 seconds apart, that I just couldn't count. But again, happy with them today. And yeah, this is going to be a true speed day. We're doing a pretty large amount of speed squats. We're doing speed pulls, and then we do box jumps. And I haven't really looked at the footage yet of the box jumps. I put it on here. I haven't looked at it, and I'll be coming up after these last couple pulls. And, you know, I'm not worried about getting to too high of a box. I used to push these. I remember I did get injured, but I've done these before since I've done them on camera. I was doing them for a while on some of my GPP days just to get used to them again. But again, me trying to jump to the highest box possible, me doing them weighted, all that stuff, I think at my age isn't good. I got hurt. You guys saw me. I hit my shin on one of them before, and I had like a bruise running from my ankle all the way to my knee, ripped skin off. It was bleeding. You know, not a good situation, because I didn't quite catch the jump, and I was wearing boots jumping to the highest box, which was my 30-inch, right? So what are we doing on these? What's the idea? We just want to jump, land in a squat position, and then stand back up. I try to get clients to do these sometimes, and they'll do stuff like they'll jump up to the box and just jump back off while still squatted down. They just look like a frog just leaping up and down. It's like, no, you squat down, you land into a deep position, you come all the way down, and then you stand back up. Because what we are doing is what it does with the stretch shortening cycle, that stand back up, you have essentially primed your peripheral nervous system. What you are doing is creating a larger stretch reflex when you stand back up. It's like doing a speed squat at the top. So after you land, your quads and everything will fire harder. You're getting extra quad explosive training in. So you land in a deep position, and then you squat. As soon as you land, immediately, you just use that stretch reflex to come back up. You don't just land deep and just stay deep and step back off while crouched down. And I've had some of my lifters have done that when I prescribe these, and I have to explain to them, no. This is, we squat, land in a deep position, stand up. Try to land flat-footed, stand back up. And I did these on just a 20-inch box, right? 20-inch box, nothing crazy. I may build up to the 24, right? I'll probably won't do these weighted. And I'm not worried about pushing the limit like a max effort and let's get as high as possible. No, because I'm going to do a lot of sets. And again, we just want to keep training that speed. And it's not just the jump. The jump matters, but the way that we land on it in that deep position and then stand back up. This is where we get a lot of the benefit. So again, this will improve your squat. This will improve your squat out of the bottom, by the way. So people say, well, how does this help the squat? Where does it help? It helps you drive out of the bottom. It gives you more power. More power coming out of the hole. And there are a lot of very top level coaches who don't even agree with each other on other stuff who agree on this. This is everyone from the West Side guys all the way to, I've seen Chaz Wesley Smith actually discuss this in detail, that he considers box jumps to be essential to building an elite squat, his opinion. Right? Jumping helps. And it does. It helps you out of the bottom, because look what happens. You squat, you land in a squat position, it's below parallel, and then you use that stretch reflex to pop back up. Again, teaches you a faster rate of force production. Gets the quads to fire harder. Okay? So if you look at all the quad work involved, like speed squatting, and then you're doing all these jumps, you're getting a ton of quad work in. It's just all super explosive. But we do grow from explosive work. Anyone who tells you otherwise is not being honest with you. Not saying it's the most efficient way to always do it, but it will stimulate large amounts of hypertrophy if volume is sufficient. Then after that, I just finished with some of my standards. We went with Good Mornings. I bumped these another 5 pounds. So this is the heaviest weight now I have ever used for sets of 10 with this bar. So we went up to 301 and did 3 sets of 10. My first set felt a little wonky. I felt like I was again cutting the depth. The hair is short, not pushing my hips back enough. And I think it's because in my head, oh, I just put a new weight on for my work sets. I need to be very careful. It was psychological, because I did the next 2 sets and they actually felt easier. And I just pushed all the way back, braced, came on down, and just pushed my hips way back, and actually the range of motion felt more complete. And it felt easier than the first set, because I felt like I was fighting against it. And our brain does silly stuff like, oh, I've never crossed 300 pounds for sets of 10. I've done 421 for a max. You know, and it's funny how we think like that when we do stuff. But then that was basically my warm-up set, though, really. Because I don't really warm up on a lot of these exercises. I just jump straight into them. I'm doing 10s and things. Then the next 2 sets are much smoother. I felt like I just pushed back more and just flowed into it smoother and just braced hard. And then they felt cleaner. I felt more hamstring, right? More hamstring involved. A little more glute. In fact, I noticed I felt my glutes on these quite a bit on this second and third set. And on this bar, I don't usually feel my glutes. I usually feel hamstrings, mid-back, all that. But I felt more glute than usual. And it could be because my glutes were fatigued from all the other speed work. My glutes got hit harder than usual. So they were already fatigued, so then we noticed it. But it's just an interesting note. Because again, I don't normally feel that. I normally feel back and I feel hamstrings when I use this bar. All right, a lot of middle back. Now I feel more lower back and I feel a lot of glute when I do the cambered bar. So, and maybe it's just because I'm also getting heavier on it. Could be the other activation from the other movements. But again, this is a rep work PR. So we've gotten stronger on this, meaning my middle and upper back are getting stronger, posterior chain's getting stronger. Moving forward, and then I finished up with my reverse hypers. I decided not to do GHRs today. I'm like, let's not just over destroy the hamstrings. Let's have to see how they're going to feel after all those speed pulls and everything. And again, I did glute ham raises after glute bridges and all of that on max effort day. So again, I don't feel like I needed to just hammer the hamstrings harder. I feel like my hamstrings did get a lot of work today. And both of these final two movements hit the hamstrings pretty hard. It's just that they're hip hinged, right? We don't really use a lot of knee flexion. And I did my normal weight for these, and I did 3 sets of 25 with 510 pounds. And again, felt good. Felt my lower back really activated on these today. Almost to the point of cramping, especially as I got near the end. But, that happens a lot of times on this lift. But I don't feel beat up. That's the beauty of a day like this. A lot of it's really tiring when you do it, but we usually feel good after a dynamic effort lower day. It seems harder when you're doing it than the max effort day. It's way harder. It's way more work. And it's very taxing, but afterwards you really don't feel, the same level of beat up. But we'll see what happens. That was a lot of speed work against bands today. 20 total sets plus the box work added in. I might have some DOMs tomorrow that I don't normally get. I'll have to wait and see what happens. But you know what? Overall, I'm very, very happy with the workout, happy with the flow of everything, happy with the way things went. Again, happy to be doing the speed work again. I know it'll take me back up to the next level. It contributed a lot to all of my strength gains over the last couple of years, and I took it out for a few months again. But I feel like I had reached my peak of what I could do without it. So I feel like a lot of my lifts, my deadlifting and benching and stuff will go back up as a result of the speed work, in spite of me cutting. I think that the training stimulus will give me some old muscle memory that'll kick back in. I think it'll improve my movement itself. It'll improve my rate of force production. And I'm hoping that by the end of this cut, it will help me either maintain strength or hit some PRs or put me into a position to where as soon as I'm done cutting, we can start hitting some big PRs again, right? Because we'll flow back into no longer being in a deficit. And then, the strength will rebound relatively quickly, and it usually does for me. A lot of people don't realize that when I bulk and cut back and forth. I don't always tell you guys, I did a 6-week cut or 4-week cut. And if my strength stagnates for a while, then all of a sudden I start hitting PRs just because I went from a cut to a bulk. But now we're doing a longer cut. We're going to do a far more extensive cut, and I'm probably going to get, based upon the target weight I want to hit, I'll probably be the leanest I've probably ever been since being on YouTube, at least, right? And so yeah, just need to try to maintain performance the best that I can and prime myself for gains when I get done with it. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.